Hi, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads. Join me in making the Paris bracelet. The materials are listed out of the beginning for you, as well as below the video in the description you can get links to the product to purchase from us online. This bracelet was actually created during one of our design lives, so if you don't get a chance, catch those because they are really inspiring. Join me in making the Paris bracelet. So to begin the Paris bracelet, I have some .006 wildfire thread in the gray color, so it's going to match nicely with my silver beads. And I put a stop bead about 10 inches from the base of the thread. I'm going to be adding the clasp after the fact, so I started out with a stop bead. This is a bright purple bead that is not going to be included in my project. To begin, I'm going to pick up my first IrisDuo, and I'm going to put on the IrisDuo a little bit funky, but it's going to make sense as we continue on the project. You could do the Paris bracelet as links or basically as steps and then kind of link them all together, but I'm going to show you how to do it as one continuous piece. With the IrisDuo here, I'm going to go into the right-hand hole as it's sitting with the flat side down. And as I go into that right-hand hole, then I'm going to let it drop down next to my bead stop. From there, I'm going to reverse from that hole closest to the stop bead, which we're going to call the outer hole, and go to the inner hole. This is going to show a little bit of thread on the exterior. You're not going to see it once we get going. From here, we're going to separate out with 11 O's 3 more IrisDuos. So we're going to get 4 total. So we're going to add an 11 and then an IrisDuo, 11, IrisDuo. And when I'm adding them, I'm going that they're facing kind of up and down, and I'm going through that top hole there. 11, IrisDuo, because I want them all to face the same way, and then 1 more 11. So I've added 3 and then 4 11 seed beads. I'm going to let that drop down next to the IrisDuo that's already there. From here, I wanted you to go back through that first IrisDuo where the thread kind of stepped to the side, and you're going to bring your needle and thread out. And you see that creates kind of a little bit of a circle, a little bit of a flower pattern. From here, go ahead through the first 11 that IrisDuo, and then out the next 11 Give a nice tight pull. Make sure no extra thread is being exposed. And now we're going to add in some 15 O's. In the example piece here, I used 2 different colors of the 15 and the 11. I really wanted this bracelet to look rich and to look very Parisian, so I'm going to do all the same color. I'm coming out of an 11 and I'm going to pick up 5 15s, and these are the Crystal Lab Full. Go back through that same 11, kind of circling around the bead. So your thread's coming out the bottom of that 11. We're going to add the 5 15s and sew through the top or the other side of that 11. It's going to put just almost like a little another petal on here. I'm going to go into the next 11 and we're going to repeat this 4 times. Getting ahead of myself here. 5 beads 4 times. So again, 5 15s go on. Coming out the 11, I'm going to go back into the 11 and then circle around. From here then, again, through the 11 and out. Adding in the 5 15s. Back through the 11. And then I've got one more time that I need to do. These 5 15s are going to create the netting that's going to hold my Potomac Crystal Chaton in place. So I've got 5 seed beads on. I'm going to go through that 11 one more time, through the next IrisDuo to finish out my groupings of 5 here. From here, go through the 11 and then I want you to go through the first 3 15s right after that 11 So you're going to end up coming out right there at the top of those 3 15s. From here, we're going to create that bezel to hold on to our Chaton. And like I said, the Chaton is an SS or a stone size 24. And we're going to use 2 11 and then we're going to go over to the next grouping of 5. And we're going to sew through the 3rd bead. Make sure those 2 11s stay to the top of that IrisDuo. Again, 2 11s, and then over to that third bead in line. We're going to repeat this again with those 2 11s, and we're going to end up repeating this 4 times till we make that netted circle. So 4 go through, or 2 go on. It's going to be a total of 8 11-0s, and then back through that first 15 that the thread was coming out of. Now you can see I have not pulled this tight. I'm going to wait to pull it tight until I kind of get ready. I'm going to set in my Chaton. The Chaton has a pointed back, which is going to sit nicely right in the middle of that IrisDuo, and then we're going to give it a nice tight pull and bring those seed beads up. From here, I want to reinforce that circle, so I'm going to take that thread and needle and go back through all the 11s and those 15s that we joined in, because remember we added the 8 of the 11s, sewing through all those 15s. And that then, once I get that back through here, is going to create my first little bezel. So I'm just circling around, going through and adding in the extra thread underneath that crystal. So from here, we're going to get ready then. We're coming out of our 15-0 that's sitting kind of across from our starter bead. I'm going to go down through the 2 15s after that. So going down the side here, and you can see the Chaton sits kind of perfectly there. Make sure I don't get my starter thread wrapped in there. Coming down through there then, I'm also going to go through the 11-0 underneath, as well as the IrisDuo. That's going to put me along the side of the IrisDuo, just like kind of where we started. And I'm going to step up from that bottom hole to the outer hole of the IrisDuo. Here's where we get to have a little fun. We're going to add our Chaton in. And the Chaton, or I'm sorry, the Navette in. The Navette, we're going to go through the right-hand hole of that Navette. Then we're going to go through the left-hand hole, going back towards that first side. Go ahead and take the thread and needle then through that second hole of the IrisDuo that sits next to it. Kind of center it on your IrisDuos because it sits in a tiny bit here. We're going to center it on the IrisDuos and then give a nice little tight pull. From here along the outer edge, I want you to put on 3 15s, and those 3 15-0 seed beads then, you're going to sew into the 11 on the side here and through that 11-0 that sits along the base. Mine wants to go in and past there. Once you're through that 11-0 then, you're going to add 3 more of your 15s, and we're going to sew into the second hole of the IrisDuo, right there. That's going to decorate the sides then with just a little bit of 15s to kind of cup along the edge. Right now, actually, I'm going to go through and add in my clasp because I'm here, so I might as well. So I have my hex clasp here because it's going to match so nicely with my blingy bracelet. And what I want to do coming out of this IrisDuo, I want you to add 2 15s and then 1 of your 11-0 seed beads. You're going to go grab a wire guard here, go up through the wire guard, and we'll reinforce with this extra thread that we started with then too. Go down through the wire guard on the other side. And as you go down through the wire guard on the other side, just make sure that your thread stays right in the track of that wire guard. Go ahead and add your clasp. And I'm adding, because this is the end that I am going to be holding the most, I'm adding the actual little pinch part here, because what I'll do then is, so I don't have as much weight to carry as I'm building the bracelet, I'll take this out. And then I will add, oops, take this out here, and then I'll add that side on secondary. From here then, I want you to go back through the 11-0, and then to make it match on the other side here, add 2 more 15s. And you're going to go through the IrisDuo on the other side, which is going to be right next to that stop bead. Again, make sure as you're doing it here that your extra thread is not showing at all. and then we're going to continue on the side. On the side here, we're going to do just like we did on the other side, adding in our 3 15s, going through the 11 that sits kind of at the base right there, adding in 3 more 15s, and into our next IrisDuo. We just finished one complete component, and we got one side of our class on, so that's a little bonus. From here, I want you to go back through your Navette and out the other side. Now, once we have that first one done, we're going to continue building. So remember when we started, we added our IrisDuo, and we went basically from the outer hole. So we're on the right-hand hole while it's facing down on that IrisDuo. From here, I want to go into the inner hole, sewing it back through. Now add an 11-0, and we're starting over again. On goes IrisDuo, 11, IrisDuo, 11, and IrisDuo to finish it off with that 11. And now we're literally back to the same thing. So the cool thing with this platform and with the YouTube is you can hit replay. You can slow it down, you can speed it up, you can watch this section again, that's up to you. From now, so you can see it's not yet attached to the actual finished piece of the actual Navette. What we're going to do is, instead of adding the clasp like we did on this one, we're going to come back and link on to that Navette. So I'm not going to make you watch me again, go through the 11-0 here, and then add the 5 15s going the whole way around, then going up to that top 15. I'm going to get this whole section done with my Chaton in place, and then I'll show you how, as we work around the outer edge of these IrisDuos, we're going to link that back into the. So here along the side, I've gotten through adding on my Navette as well as my 3 seed beads along the side, and coming out the IrisDuo, here is where I'm going to link on to the previous Navette. I'm just going to go through that upper hole of the Navette, and I went back and forth adding seed beads on, and nothing really sat great. You could add a couple 15s on if you want, but I'm literally just going to come back down the Navette to the other side of that next IrisDuo. And just like I did on the first side of the Navette where you see a little bit of thread exposed, this side as well is going to have a little bit of thread exposed. It sits so far down in the Navette, you will actually never see it hanging out down there. From here then, again, just adding on those 3 seed beads along the side. So on the first go around, we added in the clasp. This one we added and linked to that previous Navette. I add in my 3 seed beads, finishing that link up. And you can just kind of play with it a little bit to get the spacing right, and then on to the next one. Going through the Navette that's already there. And then we just continue on. Again, if you need to, you can kind of put it on repeat to get the Paris bracelet to the length that you want it to be. And you're going to continue adding in your beautiful IrisDuos as well as your crystals and your. After finishing the bracelet, you're going to come to the end, and instead of putting on your next Navette, we're going to repeat what we did at the beginning of the bracelet, where instead of a Navette, we're actually going to put on 2 15s, an 11, our wire guard, put our clasp on through that wire guard or that wire protector, push that in on there, and then coming out that clasp, go back through the 11-0 seed bead, and then back through the side of the next IrisDuo, put 2 15s on, and then into that second hole of the next IrisDuo. Now on the other side, we only came through one time because we were building the opposite way. On this time here, I'm going to come back through and reinforce after I add in the sides here, as well as going through my last Navette. You can see what I did was just pinch that wire guard a little bit, and that makes the clasp sit a lot nicer on the actual wire guard or the wire protector. From here then, going down the side here, we just need to go in and put in our 3 15s down the side through the 11. Add in the 3 15s. 3 15s, 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 When you're doing this, you want to make sure too, as you pull, that your thread still stays in your wire guard and that it does not escape. And I ended up with my bracelet for my size wrist with this clasp, going ahead and doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Navettes and 8 of my little Paris components. Going back through the piece now, I'm going to pull that nice and tight to get that Navette right in there. Coming out through the side then here, I'm going to shorten that tail. And then along the side here, continue those kind of side decorations with the 3/15s, going through the 11 there, which sometimes can be a little tricky. I'm kind of stubborn, and I probably should have put on a size 12 needle, but I had a 10 sitting next to me, and I never got up to switch to the 12. But if you start with a size 12 needle, it'll be a little easier for you. Going through the end then here, I'm coming out near the very end where the clasp is, and I'm going to use this opportunity to reinforce that clasp. Whenever I have a clasp, I want to make sure that I have more than one thread going through the button, going through the toggle, going through the wire guard and the closure, because the clasp is really where it happens to get the most tension on the bracelet. That's what you're grabbing onto when you put it on and off, and that's what you want to kind of make sure when you're working with it that you reinforce. Coming down then the other side, all you have to do is close off your bracelet by tying the thread off at the bottom of the piece. So you can see I'm coming down the IrisDuo, going down through those seed beads along the side. I'm going to go through the IrisDuo and come out the back of the project. When I come out the back of the project here, I'm going to grab onto a thread and, or to a bridge thread here, which is a thread connecting from one bead to another, and just do a nice little sewer's knot. Basically sewing underneath that thread, making a loop, sewing back through that loop to create a knot. And making sure as I do it that I don't get any extra thread kind of tangled in the way. And there I have it. What I'm going to do then also is sew back through the project just a little bit more, kind of wiggling my thread around, and then I'm going to burn off that extra thread ends. What I'm going to do here on this end to finish off is put a needle on this end, take that stop bead off there, and then just take this thread and reinforce through the clasp as well and tie off on the end, and then my Paris bracelet is going to be completely finished. Thanks so much for watching and joining me in making the Paris bracelet. Keep in mind you can always subscribe to this YouTube channel to get regular updates from us on new products, new designs, design challenges, and things we think that you should know. If you need any of the materials, remember there's links below in the description box near the date stamp that says when the video was created. Also, there's that nice link at the beginning as well to let you know what you need to make this Paris bracelet. As always with all the designs, let me know how you changed it up, what colors you're using, and how you're going to make it your own. Thanks so much for watching the Paris bracelet, and enjoy creating this nice crystal bling.